All right, so here is the initial look. Once I've got the line fed back through and I've got it reconnected to my valve. Like I said, this is just the initial fit. I went from the curved, dog-legged mess that was in here. I slid my bracket onto the tube. I fit the grommet onto the tube. And then as I fed the tube through the side of the fuselage, this end here, I kept unbending and unbending to get it straight, passed it underneath the valve, and then I've got it temporarily connected here. So this is the line here. It clears this existing line just fine. It passes through that first grommet, and then you can see it continues on. So now what I need to do is just finesse it. It looks pretty good here. That dog leg looks pretty good. It looks like it's almost centered on that notch. I'll get the actual cover plate out and fit it to make sure that this dog leg is correct, but you can see this leg here looks like it's going to go through that hole nicely on this cover plate. The 90-degree here fits into the side of the fuselage just fine. The angle this way is close. I'll have to tweak that once I get the cover plate on. And then this length of the line here is going to have to be tweaked so I can get this bracket screwed back in where it needs to be. Like I said, this grommet sticks out further from the spar than the grommet on this little bracket. And it also has to run uphill, so this length of line here is going to have to be bent back and bent up so it can go through this bracket. And then from this bracket over to this 90-degree, it's somewhat straight, but you still have to fool with it a little bit so that you can get the tube to pass through the angled cover plate the way it should. So now it's just a matter of tweaking it literally by hand best you can to get it to look decent and to get it to fit the way that it's supposed to fit. So that's what I'm going to do next, and then we'll see what the final result looks like. Oh, this is why I protected the spar with blue tape. When you go to fit this bracket back onto the tubing and you're sliding the tubing around trying to get it through the fuselage, and you're trying to unbend this end here to get it back onto your valve, this bracket's going to move around and it could potentially mar the spar a little bit. So that's why I put the blue tape on. All right, be back in a second. Howdy everyone. Alrighty, so here it is. This is the finished product. Again, the line is now connected to the valve. I'll show that again. You can see how I was talking about where the lines crisscross. So this line here comes down and it goes over to that wing. The opposite line comes down and comes over to this other wing. One thing I wanted to make note of is this line hangs down lower than this line. So I made this 90-degree bend, and the leg going up to the valve is longer than this leg. That just helps offset the lines a little bit so they clear each other a little bit nicer. And then of course you got some jogging to do to get it around the existing line and then to bring it back over so that it can pass through the bushing. You want to try to bend your line so there's no stress on the bushing. You want your line to pass through it cleanly. Same with this bracket here. When you go to reattach this little bracket, you don't want to rely on the bracket to pull the line over into place. You want to bend the line so the bracket naturally lines up with the screw holes. You don't want to draw the bracket in with the screws and pull the line with it. You don't want any stress in any of these areas. You can see again, I've got the 90-degree bend going through the fuselage, then the 90-degree bend back by the spar, It comes through, it clears this hole here, comes through the bracket. Again, there's no stress on the bracket. Sorry about that. Almost dropped the camera again. And it passes through this. I still can't think of what those damn things are called. Grommet. Yay. Passes through the grommet, no stress, and then it's connected to the valve. You can see, as I said before, this run of the line here that passes through the cover plate, that is roughly centered in the cutout. And you can see, if you look from a distance, you can see that the lines are somewhat close to being symmetrical. They kind of look the same. The bends on this line look identical roughly to the bends on this line. So it is very, very tedious. It took me 3 tries to get this line right. This one I did basically once. But it just took a lot of time to figure out lengths and measuring and how to do the bends and the sequence of events, how to pull the lines back and forth, when to flare, when to bend, stuff like that. So it's very tedious. If you like a challenge and you're dead set on having hard lines like I am, I like a challenge and I really wanted hard lines in here, this is the way to do it. But if you don't want a bunch of fuss, if you don't want a headache, if you don't want to be sore and pissed off, go ahead and use flex lines. They both work. They'll both get your fuel to the engine, no worries. All right, I'm going to throw the covers on both of these real quick just to see how the lines pass through those. And I'll come back real quick just to give that a wrap up. And see you in a second. Alrighty, so here we are, finally finished with these hard lines on the inside of the fuselage. So obviously I've now got the 2 cover plates installed, and I just wanted to verify that the line passes through roughly the center of that hole. And that's pretty close on both sides. Again, you can see that the line passes through the center of that hole. And that's what I'm looking for. And of course, with the lines completely hidden behind the panels, it looks great. All right. So again, obviously you have to have the rubber grommet on the line while you're working on the line, because once it passes through the firewall, there's no easy, or once it passes through the side of the fuselage, there's no easy way to get it on there. Having said that, I still don't know how the hell you're supposed to get that grommet fed back onto this panel. It seems like it would be a real pain in the ass because these things are so soft and so flimsy, you'd bend the crap out of it. But I'm going to leave the grommet as is. Of course, these panels are going to come off because I got more work to do behind here, potentially with wiring and different things. Of course, you need access to the bolts to put the wings on, so these panels are going to go away for a while. But I'm assuming when the time comes, when I've got the floor pans in place and I've got this thing bolted down, screwed down to everything that it needs to be screwed down to, hopefully it will stiffen that up enough that I can figure out how to jam that gusset or that grommet back into these holes on the panels. Okay, so that's it for fuel line. Oh, another thing, like I said, these lengths were cut to 35 inches. And you can see how much is sticking out here. You need roughly, I'm guessing, 4 or 5 inches, I think, to make the connection to the wing. And that's the connection with the standard fuel pickup. It's not the inverted fuel pickup. It's just the standard fuel pickup fitting location on the wing. With that configuration, which is what I'm using, this is just a straight shot to the wing. And I think that's about 4 or 5 inches. This here is roughly, I want to say about 7 to 8 inches. So again, if you cut your overall length of tubing to 35 inches, this is what you're going to end up with. So could you do 34 inches? Could you do 33 inches? Probably, but I think 35 is a good length. So when the day comes and I reattach the wing, I can just kind of bend this out of the way to get the wing attached, and then I can cut it back to its final length, flare it in place, done. All right, so that's it for this hard fuel line stuff. I'm going to move on to whatever is next, and at this point I'm not really sure what that is, but when I figure it out, I'll videotape it. So again, as always, thanks for coming by, thanks for checking me out, thanks for subscribing, thanks for clicking the bell. And if you're so inclined to buy a Vans kit, it doesn't matter which kit it is, and it doesn't matter what airplane the kit is for. If you make a kit purchase, I'd be much obliged if you'd use my builder number that's located in the description. That build number is basically just like a referral to Vans, and to show their appreciation, they'll send me $100. Nothing comes out of your pocket. And then, of course, once you have your own build number, you can pass that favor on to your friends and family, and hopefully they'll get you $100 as well. All right, campers, I will talk to you soon, and as always, thanks a lot. See you later.